Well, by now you're probably wondering, what about those 18 missing years that we don't know anything about Jesus? And how about what did he learn or what did he do while they were in Egypt? And on and lots of unanswered questions, isn't there? Well, I can't answer them for you, but I can certainly give you some ideas to think about. For instance, you got to remember that Joseph was a very pious man. He was a carpenter, of course, but he spent his time in the temple, and the priests taught and directed Joseph in many things. Marian, was a temple servant. She worked in the temple right up until the time she married Joseph, which was when she was a little over 14 years of age. So there was a lot of teaching they could impart to Jesus. Now I'm sure that there were other things, because if you remember when we talked about that special star that supposedly was over the stable there and stayed over Jesus until even the wise men came to see him, and a bright light, it was a star to the old people. They worshiped things in the sky, figuratively speaking, because they didn't understand those things, and a bright light coming down to them was a star. And there may have been some kind of teaching there that could have been imparted to Jesus. To say nothing of all the studies and things that he would have found in Egypt to bring back. Then let's go into the 18 years that are missing there. Well, as we said, Joseph was a carpenter. That means that Jesus, being a dutiful son, also worked as a carpenter. He had to. And remember, that wasn't hammering nails and using boards and saws. Most of that was stonework. And you had to be pretty husky and pretty strong to handle that kind of work. And Jesus was also a pretty hail fellow, well met, loved by everybody, had a great sense of humor. And he didn't get that just automatically, and yet he did. You see, that was part of growing up. You know, when you're growing up, how many of us have had broken arms and broken noses and different things? And I'm sure Jesus had his fair share of bumps and scrapes because he played with the other boys in the city that he lived in, the places he was visiting and was working in. And so he had to be pretty tough, pretty rough. And then when he started his ministry, they're not sure. They figure somewhere between 30 and 35. He started his ministry. That too had to come in with all the teaching that he had. But Jesus told us where he got that teaching. It's in that book called the Bible. It's within. Jesus says we all have it within us. All that wisdom and knowledge is right in there. All you need to do is bring it out. You know, people say, well, I pray and I meditate and I've studied scientific prayer and I know to be positive, and I've studied scientific meditation, and I can sit in the right pose and hold my hands in the right way. I may even have a mantra. You don't need any of that. You see, it's all inside. You just got to be natural. I forget who it was that said it, that sometimes the greatest prayer that you can say is, thank you, God. And that's the truth, gratitude. And sit there with expectations of Spirit coming through you and revealing to you all that wisdom and knowledge is there. Jesus said you could do it, that he wouldn't lie. You know that. No, Jesus said greater things than he did wilt thou do. That means you and I and everybody else, we have it. We got to use it. If you don't use it, you don't lose it, but it atrophies. But maybe you'll get another chance to use it in another place, another way, another body. I don't know. Do you? You know, people ask me about reincarnation all the time, and my answer is always the same. I didn't believe in it in my last life. But I'm not asking you to believe anything. I'm asking you to learn and know everything. And it all comes from within. Now, there is one other thing that Jesus said and did a lot of, and that was love. He gave love. Now, we're going to be talking next week about how you can bring forth all these things and make it easier for you. And you can. I know you can do it if you want to. if you have a desire, and make that a burning desire so that you just can't stand to do anything that doesn't increase your spiritual growth. That was the alarm. And that means we're through talking. God bless y'all. Thank you for letting me share a very little of what I know, a little of what I know. And we'll see what happens with you next week.